On and we are recording on Friday, August 22nd, 2025 at 9:23 a.m. Eastern time. Guys, please use the QR code on the page to get the energy drink that sponsors my show. It tastes like the original Rockstar, but that doesn't matter. It's caffeine, all right? And it's the caffeine and Bouillon are the two most honest sponsors I can do, and they're the two least things that a listener can do because no one's going to pick up caffeine or pick up bullion because of me. But if you were going to buy gold anyway and you were going to drink coffee anyway and you watch my show, let me skim half a percentage off the top. That's all I'm asking for. So,
Give me a
but
little vig,
just
a
give me a
little
little.
vig.
I'm
Uh,
not the mob boss. I'm not trying to break your knees. I'm just give me a couple shekels. Give me one French fry from your fucking thing. Um, but none of that's important. Well, I guess it is important because it's the sponsor of the show. But you've been on here a zillion times before, and you got a new book out yesterday. The first one, Eternal War, which I've read. The second one was at Women's Scars, Men. No, Women's.
men's scars, women's wars, and the whole rotten mess.
Okay, yeah, because I glanced at it for like half a second last night.
Uh,
So that's about as good of a recollection as I can have, and you and I will be doing a show about that as you're putting your work up more and trying to monetize it, which is that's the alchemy. Not that you need any advice from me, but that's the alchemy. That's the lead to gold part. Everything else is its own difficult. Start the podcast, get whatever. The alchemy, the abracadabra, is taking the thing and then turning it in to currency that is accepted by your landlord and grocery store. It's not impossible. It's not
kind
impossible.
of,
I'm
those
slowly
are
doing it.
kind of the priorities.
But that is if you can get
Yeah,
that, that's magic. That's magic.
yeah.
Turn something you love into like you can buy bananas with
Well,
it. Yeah.
turn human labor of any kind into stuff you can eat.
Well, not only that,
And
but labor you
uh,
enjoy. You anyone
yes,
you can turn labor. You can
yeah,
go get a
yeah,
job
that's
and get that's
true.
not the point.
Yeah,
The alchemy is
yeah,
going, I'm having fun, I'm laughing, and we're talking about cool
yeah,
shit. How does that translate
yeah,
my utilities bill? And if you can do that,
yeah,
I mean, it's
yeah.
it's up there with, your first LSD trip or something. It is a magical unfolding. Um,
I want to
yeah,
touch on the energy drink if I can, because you
yeah,
mentioned Rockstar. I never drank Rockstar, and I'll tell you why. I was invited, my then future ex-wife and I
yeah,
were invited to the Rockstar launch party when it first launched by the founders of the company, who were people we know. I can't even
yeah.
remember who the hell they are now. Anyways, so it was on Folsom Street in San Francisco, and the Folsom Street Fair was going on. And it's all these dudes and assless chaps and all this other just this unreal. And
Degeneracy. All right.
I was a grown man, but it was so traumatic for me. I was like,
Not doing this
I
shit.
want nothing to do with any of this. But honest, in all honest truth, I don't do so well with energy drinks, over agitates me, etc. But
Yeah.
the whole Rockstar one is like, yeah, I know that
The only thing I
brand.
know about Rockstar is it tastes, and I just know that because my
Uh,
best friend's dad worked for Coke. And so
mm,
in like middle school, we would
mm,
always get to try shit like a year before it came out. And
mm,
Rockstar it was literally it's like the first shipment of cocaine to LA in the 80s. It's like, yeah, we got this new
uh,
shit and it's gonna be on shelves in a year. Like, don't tell anyone about it.
the
Yeah,
George Jung moment.
it,
Yeah.
it was it was, but
Uh,
yeah, so
so back to conversion.
the alchemy.
So I've wanted to be a writer and tell real stories, and since I was 16. I mean, I was a prodigious reader my whole life, but really when I was younger, that was my escape from the insanity of life. Um, I lived in Sun Valley, Idaho, just down from Hemingway's house, and Mariel Hemingway lived up the road from me a bit. And I was in my early 20s, mid 20s, and I was writing every day. I did this for about 3 years there, and then down in Tucson, Arizona, because there's another writing community down there and a triathlon community, and I was doing both. And I was trying to write, and I realized, yeah, I can write interesting things, but it doesn't have any real substance to it. And then I come across, I think it was probably about 26, 27. I came across Michener's statement. They had asked him, why didn't you start writing till you were in your 40s? And I think he was a literature or English professor or whatever. And he said I hadn't lived enough life yet to be able to tell the real story. So in my mid 20s, I decided, okay, I need to go do that. And I have. And now I'm, in my late 50s. And it's like, okay, I've done all these other things. There's not a whole lot of other industries or experiences, or, I'm probably too old to take the long walk for Delta Force. You know, those kinds of things. And um, I have a hard time memorizing long lists of anatomy and other things, right?
Yeah.
So med school's pretty much off the table, even for fun. So maybe it's time to actually sit down and try and earn a living as a writer.
I honestly, as somebody who did get into med school,
Yeah.
I can say that doing something you love and turning dollars out of it is more difficult and more
Hmm.
rewarding. And what you got in, so it's like I've told this story before, like a dumb meathead in high school, freshman year kind of fucked off. Sophomore year, moved into the frat house on my 20th birthday and got way too high and realized that college was going to be over in 3 short years and I really had nothing to show for it. And that's when I literally was like, hold my beer and I was like, I'm going to be a doctor.
Hmm.
And I just stopped drinking and smoking for 6 semesters and whatever. And that was
Hmm.
all cool. But so like that in its most base value was a realization at an age and then looking into the future at a future age and going, I want to be there. And if I start on this now, I can do it. That's what it was. Day day after I graduated college, I took some mushrooms for the first time with my buddy and we were out in the woods just kind of meditating and I realized I really wasn't happy. I was proud of getting into med school, but I wasn't happy. And so I was like, well, how do we just repeat this? Got too high, new goal. The new goal wasn't out of fear, though. The first one was out of horrifying fear. The second one was I wanna I wanna make money doing what I like, and that's much more abstract than I want to get into med school. It's like, so what do you like? And it's like, I don't even know. That was a long road of like Photoshop and then trying writing and trying video editing and trying to like make like clothes, put designs on clothes and blah, blah, blah. And it the last iteration was starting the podcast. And then that itself was another 6 years of doing it. But I started the podcast after a first 6 years of first trying to figure out what it was I even wanted to do. And my point with all of it is much like the podcast, where I don't come in with any notes, but I do prepare and that I make sure I get 8 hours of sleep, go to the gym, meditate, and then show up ready to rock. Put your phone on airplane mode. Don't be a bad host. And then the show unfolds. I've kind of realized in hindsight from really 2013 till now, the whole alchemy we're talking about, it is just focus on the center thread. And for me, it's like in hindsight, I can see it wasn't that it was Photoshop or merch or writing or even podcasting. It was enjoyable creativity and then translating that to being able to pay rent. And that has been and I can say this, that has been so much more difficult than the selection process to be a doctor. That if the way you're looking at it, you're like, okay, Delta Force doctor, I'm looking at it in a different way. And like what I'm saying to most people would scare them off.
Yeah.
What I'm saying to you is like, you're a crazy person like me, just like Yancey. I'm like, no, 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 no. This is you'll go for it because it is
Yes.
so much harder. There's no guidelines, there's no classes you have to take. You
And
don't
way
even
more
know.
competitive.
It's
You
no
got,
like you gotta shoot this well on a
uh,
range and you gotta run this. You don't
uh,
even know what the requirements are.
yeah.
And but if you can do it, man, and I make probably less money than everyone I know my age. But I still look at it, I'm like, dude, I don't care. This is the
But
cool.
you have way broader reach than any of them or all of them
And
combined.
and it's just my data. It's so interesting. And so that's what I would say to you is like, yeah, I wouldn't, not that you were, maybe I'm interpreting it wrong, but don't
Yeah.
frame it as like, well, I can't do this and I can't do that. Frame it as like
Oh,
you
yeah,
have
yeah,
now
yeah.
arrived at the base of the mountain and it is the most challenging and most rewarding climb ever.
Yeah.
So go forth. Not that you need my
Yeah.
advice, but
Thank God I still got knees that work
exactly. But
and hips.
yeah,
They
dude,
hurt
it's
sometimes, but yeah.
go for
No,
it,
I
man.
I I always wanted to write fiction, right? I used to write a lot. When I was in school, I wrote prodigiously, mostly poetry though, trying to work out, doing my own therapy, I guess. Um, but more and more is, like the men's scars and women's wars, more and more I'm realizing that, and Hemingway did this too, by the way, and some of the other greats, right? We look at their novels and we're like, these were the great. But if you read some of their short stories and their essays, you're like, holy cow, like The Short Uncomfortable or The Short Unhappy Life of Francis McComber by Hemingway. It's a short story, but oh my God, that thing's powerful, right? And so, where I set out to write novels, et cetera, it's like, I'm still doing it, right? As Rome Burns, I'm serializing that and writing it, and I'm serializing it one because very few people sit down and read a brain twister kind of novel anymore. It's also the way originally novels were released, for the first couple hundred years was in newspapers or magazines. Some author, or the greatest authors we knew in history, that's how they released their works,
Serializing meaning it's like
a
a
chapter at a time.
got it.
Yeah, 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 yeah. The other reason is that I'll sit down and write a chapter of Azrael Burns as there's something that people I know or the voices we're hearing out in the space are trying to work through some complex concepts or ideas. The main theme and story, I've already worked out where the book goes and all of that, but how exactly it happens and what exactly the characters discuss and how that comes up when there's some deep concept or idea that people are trying to get to, I'll sit down and write that chapter and lay it out, in the dialogue, the actions between the characters in that chapter. So I'm just kind of rolling it out that way. So that is the fiction. I'm doing that, but I'm finding more and more that I'm gravitating towards essays that are, no more than 5, 6 pages. They're not a whole lot of wordy words, and also to these prose like essays, which are just kind of, I'm mostly given up drinking at this point, but, are kind of like drunken rants, right? Drunken Irish, I'm not Irish, but, drunken Irish rants. And I'm finding that those actually connect pretty well. That
Hmm.
people will read those and that's why I did the men's scars, women's wars. That's a collection of these kind of drunken essays and poems I wrote. So I'm finding with the fiction stuff, people need more of an immersive environment now. So I'm looking at AI tools and other things that we can do to, do content creation there. And the art of being a man, I was doing multimedia videos on the YouTube channel at New Nobility or the at symbol New Nobility on YouTube. But the people who were putting the videos for me together for me were like jacking up their price every like 3 videos. It's like, yeah, okay, we're not going to go down that pathway. I'm going to end up with $1,000 per video here at
Hmm.
some point pretty soon. Um, but yeah, no, it's I think, as I'm looking at all this stuff and banging myself about it, I'm finding it's much actually harder to be a writer today. There's a lot more tools and there's a lot more distribution channels, but there's also a vast number more people doing it.
Well, yeah.
And you've got a ludicrous amount of noise out there.
Well, yeah. It's I was in like I don't know fifth, sixth, seventh grade when like Google. Well, I mean I don't know. Maybe it's before that. That's when I first realized it, and it was like it's at your fingertips. You don't have to go to the library. But if it's at everyone's fingertips, very
Yeah.
quickly the teachers, even like 2002, were like, no more copying paste because it was like the first person to make a PowerPoint where they copy and pasted everything about Egypt. That was impressive. And then everyone realized you're just copy pasting. And if you can do it, everyone can do it.
Yeah.
And in the same way, people are like, oh, I have Grok to write out a business plan. The first time it's impressive. But now when people are like, it's like, well, if everyone's using it and everyone's using it to, to animate and to draw and to make the sounds and to, well, then no one is.
Well, it's
So
also crap.
well, regardless,
Yeah, yeah, yeah,
but
yeah.
even if it was perfection,
Yeah,
if everyone's doing it, there is nothing cool or superior about having an iPhone.
yeah,
They
yeah,
are
yeah, yeah.
cool and superior. Everyone has them though, and it's probably just like a thing of all throughout history. It's like, all right, well then he said like fuck the videos, they're charging more. The same reason why like I've tried hiring different like groups or companies to make clips of this podcast, and very quickly I'm like, it's costing me way more money than I'm making. And the real thing is like, well, who has the best clips? I'm like, no, there's so many podcasts that the real value is like, we'll put out something interesting and superior. And that's where it comes back to writing, I would imagine, is like, if it has to just be better. Everything else will follow suit. Everything else will flow forward with it. But that is like that's the boat kind of breaking the glass lake. Everything else will come with it, but you don't focus on the wake or the waves. It's like no, focus on the primary thing. Everything else will work with it. At least it's how I imagine. I don't know. I'm not a writer.
I so there's a program. Give me one second. I'm gonna go on the web here real quick. I
You
hate to
good?
do that, but I
No,
want to
I don't care. You're
give
good.
you something, a little tool that I found here recently. Um, oh gosh, need my glasses. All right, clip.opus.pro. Are you familiar with this?
No.
I would take a look because it takes the long form content, analyzes it, and breaks it down into the clips for you. And I've used it here this week. It's very low cost and very capable, and it's prompt driven, and it works very well to create the shorts. One of the things that is happening is the two types of content that are really going out there in the world, right? Really connecting in ways that are monetizable or, for, audience reach, et cetera, are the very short clips, 2 minutes or less, and the long form stuff. The middle stuff's kind of tending to go away
Mm-hmm.
for now. Who knows, right? But it seems to be these attention spans. So this clip.opus.ar.com, whatever I just said, actually does a really good job of finding virality segments and parsing them out for you. And it'll give you 30 or 40 different clips for a show.
Yeah, I've heard of some people using that. I mean, that's something the podcast is still at a point where like, it's just now, probably in the last year, hitting the point of money in, money out. Before this, it was deficit, and
Yeah,
now
yeah,
it's
yeah.
like just hitting that. So to me, I'm like, oh, there's like a zillion things I want to do with the show over the coming years and decades.
Yeah.
Right now, it's still at a point where I'm like I started the fire in like the rainstorm in the woods. So it's like, all right, just keep the fucking fire going. Like it's like, well, after we get a fire going, maybe we could start, chopping wood and cooking. And it's like we'll do the agricultural revolution in a minute, like caveman
Well,
fire.
let's tame wolves first.
But for the last
Yeah,
hundred
yeah,
thousand
yeah.
generations, we've been
Yeah,
dying because of the cold. Like, let me just
yeah,
hover. And I'm like, all right. And I get it. You got to keep growing. You can't stay still. But
yeah, yeah.
with clips and stuff I just haven't found any meaningful return on it yet, and I don't think that's because of people who make clips or the quality of clips. I don't want to be that person that's like, well, the clips just don't. No, no, no. I get it. To me, it's not like I'm still at like DEFCON 1. And I'm like, we'll get to the other shit. Right now, like the vault doors are still closed, and that's kind of how I'm operating it. And and every once in a while though, it will get clipped and go on Twitter or something like that. I don't know, if, like that the clip of Dr. Malone mentioning UFOs, like
Mm.
that made it to Alex Jones, and that I think like David Icke, the lizard guy, like people were sending me clips and they're like, dude, this is all over Twitter. I'm like, oh fuck yeah. Now, granted, I don't think I got credited for any of that, but whatever. Um, but I don't know. I just look at that and I go, all right, I'm moving in the right direction. If it's clippable for others, that's a real qualifier
Yeah.
because they're clipping it and doing it on their own. So I don't know. I take that as like I'm going in the right direction ish.
So,
Like
yeah, yeah. So this is I've already, so the novel I'm serializing now, I already wrote the prequel. I wrote it initially intending to publish it as the first book in the series because it's a 5 book series, Shouldering Giants series. I wrote the prequel already. I sent it to several publishers because I had access to, through friends, to some pretty big literary agents. And they said, we can't publish this. I couldn't get this published. There's like, wow, there's some great ideas and concepts in here, but we can't get this published. This is also in the heat of the wokest period, right? Um, in that, I wrote that, I was raised to despise the 3 Bs, businessmen, bankers, and bureaucrats, right? I was raised to viscerally despise them. And, over the decades of my life, I've come to a begrudging respect for the businessmen and bankers, at least, not the bureaucrats. But I still instinctively despise them, right? I despise money grubbing. I despise, the I'm not motivated by money. I'm motivated by conversation. I'm motivated by trying to get to an understanding of what's going on and doing what we can to keep it all from derailing, as you and I talked about in the Eternal War, from keeping the resentfuls from burning it all down, raping and pillaging everything. Folks that have, creative types, thinker types that generally thinker types, seekers, I think is a phrase that some people have used. This is what you're doing with your show, right? Seeker types, from my experience, virtually every single one of them I've ever met are not motivated by money. They're not motivated by self promotion um, or in self enrichment. They're motivated by seeking. And that creates a problem because you wind up with people who are doing really good seeking work and really finding things that people need, and they're giving them away. And then they can only do that so much and in so many ways because they got to pay the bills,
Mm-hmm.
as you touched on. And then you wind up with, and because they can't pay the bills and they struggle or they don't have the capital available to do all these other kinds of things that are, you know, message supportive in terms of getting the message out there broader or, reaching certain audiences, et cetera. What you wind up happening is, and this goes back to the printing press, this goes back to shit, probably clay tablets, who knows, right? You wind up with a whole lot of people who are making a whole lot of money who appear to be seekers, but are just regurgitating useless nonsense and crap. Just like the same with, a business plan written by Grok. I'll tell you right now, I use Grok every day, but it's crap. It can help you organize some thoughts and some ideas, can help you do some reference, searches, but the output of it, you better be good at what you do to be able to validate and vet what the output of any of these LLM systems are. Right. So what's happening is, and I'm seeing it, right? I'm seeing it on these YouTube videos, et cetera. Like this, some guy came up the other day. He's written using using LLMs, AI, quote unquote AI. He's written 1,500 books in the last few years. 1,500. And he's made $3 million doing it.
Jeez.
They're all crap.
Yeah.
It's just gobbledygook word salad nonsense. $3 million. 1,500 books,
Just war of attrition.
right? So, point being is that there is a certain amount of taking a step back, pausing a moment, and realizing that the greats like Mark Twain and Ernest Hemingway and Jules Verne and all these others, they did have a portion of themselves where they did stop and monetize,
Mm-hmm.
right? Speaking engagements, in their time, right? This is before all the stuff we have available now, serializing their pieces in magazines or articles or other people's, distribution channels. Um, what were they do? These were the great seekers, but that we know about. How many for each one of them that actually did figure out how to be both a seeker and pay their bills, some of which did quite well. How many thousands of others were good thinkers, good seekers who never did, and we don't even know about them today?
Yeah, that is the balance between like the purity of doing the whatever it is you want, seeker, curiosity, creativity, and then the flip side of like monetizing it. And yeah, I'm still in the middle of that because like you do have to monetize. Yeah, you can rail against it, you call it capitalism, you can be a Marxist faggot, but like ultimately it's like no, you do have to do it. Like you live in a world where you have to pay.
Got to earn a living.
It's just what it
Yeah,
is.
yeah,
You also don't have to completely destroy the thing you're
yeah,
doing, and
yeah,
it is a middle ground because you do have to pay the bills, but at the same time, it's like, I always kind of harp on it. Like whenever I log in a Rumble or whatever to go to the Rumble studio, and it's the same shit you see on YouTube, just with the left, but it's just the same thing on the front page of everything. It's always about, it's always some clickbait thing with they always do the thumbnail with the eyes open and the mouth open, and Trump just did what, and AOC is a dummy, and it's like. I think people that kind of engage in that are mentally retarded, and if they're not mentally retarded. They're just making money. So I think
yeah,
some of them are cynically just
yeah,
making money, and I get it. But they also don't really have any attachment. Some of those people are stupid as fuck, and they do believe every single fucking every day for the last 50. Those libs are just like, Jesus Christ. But I've talked to some people who have like big accounts like that. And they'll kind of like say with like, yeah, but this pays my mortgage. And I'm like, okay. And the thing is, and they don't have any love for it, so they don't care. They're like, what the fuck do I care? I'm like, okay, I get that. It's harder. It would be harder for me to do that because like the podcast is something I love. Right? If there was like a side thing where I just went on and just, talked about how Donald Trump is the second coming of Christ, and I had to do that for like 10 minutes a day, and that would pay rent, I would probably do that, but I wouldn't want it on my show. So the point is like you're walking on the just the middle of this tightrope, and it's like even now it's like this is a show like I want to do. We're talking, we're hanging out, but it has to like there do have to be sponsors. It does have to be it's why I don't do live anymore. Is I have the people at Untamed produce it and they put it up, and then it gets ad rev on it. And as with it all, it's very hard because there is no guideline of what is the middle road. It's like that's for you and you alone to decide. And you're like, well, there's not an equation. There's no overview committee. That's the whole entrepreneurial thing is you have to decide what is the middle ground. What is the middle ground of like selling out? And you also can't be like, well, I'm just going to be a purist. And it's like, that's all well and good, but that's also hippie commune shit. Someone has to pay for the power so this microphone works. And yeah, it's a dance down the middle, but ultimately it's what you have to do, and no one's making. That's what I always try to come back to. It's like no one's making me do this. Whenever I talk about how difficult it is, it's like no one's making me do this. If you don't want to have any of this shit where there's all these unanswered questions and you don't know what to do and you want structure, you can go do that. I'm not shitting. You go get a job. Go work at a parking garage. Go punch tickets. Go work at CVS. Why don't you want to do that? Well, it's structured and rigid and it's boring. It's like, okay, so do you want the structure and the rigid and the boringness? And then you know for a fact that you have Saturday, Sunday free, or do you want to sit on the nose cone of the rocket? And you might hit a mountainside at Mach 40, but it might also fly. And that's the middle thread is no one's doing it for you. No, there is no. Well, what do I do after 1,818 episodes? Is there a guide? No, there's nothing. And if somebody does have it figured out, there's a very good chance they're not fucking telling you because they've made the fire. They're like, I'm not telling the other cavemen about this shit.
Yeah,
I'm gonna build this
yeah,
fire so I can get all the caveman
yeah.
pussy. Like, it's I don't. So then it ultimately comes back to it's like, so why do any of this shit if it's so difficult and nerve wracking? Because it's fucking thrilling, man. It's thrilling. It's pushing yourself off the island out in the middle of the Pacific on a raft made of coconuts and water bottles, and it's floating. You're like, this is holy
And
shit.
and you're alive. You know
You're
what?
like,
I've
fuck yeah,
I've
I fucking
known,
built a raft.
right? I've known so many wealthy people in my life, and without exception, I think I met two or three that were happy
Oh yeah.
with their life, what they were
Yeah.
doing. I mean, really happy. Like, yeah, this life's good. A lot of them fake it, but most of them are miserable. Why? Because they're not living. They're transacting.
Yeah.
And it's there's that joke, right? It's not really a joke, it's reality. It's like you're working your ass off, you're succeeding, you've got these kinds of women, mids or whatever coming around. And then the moment you lose your job and your wealth, the hottest chick ever, but you're alive and you're living, right? The hottest chick ever looks at you is like, and you have this random conversation at night
Yeah.
after the pub closes,
Yeah.
right? It's never going to happen because but
Because you got nothing.
why did it happen? Because
No,
you
yeah,
weren't
no,
you were alive, you were living, and she was like, ooh,
yeah.
right?
He has a pulse.
He's alive. It's like I've watched so many wealthy people in so many situations, men and women, just the people who are transacting, they're chasing the dollars, or et cetera, who weren't. You get them in a social situation, an environment, they're either on drugs or alcohol because they can't connect with anybody. There's no life or connection there.
Mm.
So many.
That's
Right. Now that's not all. I have some friends, like my friend Tucker Max has done very well in life and he's alive and he's living, and I've
how
got
I
some
met
others
Clay.
as well. And
Oh,
Clay.
I met
What's
Clay.
that?
I met Clay
You
through
met Clay
Tucker
through
Backs.
Tucker? Ah,
Because
okay. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
I read Tucker. I hope they serve beer in hell in college.
Uh,
And I had Clay on or Tucker on. He put me in touch with Clay. I'm pulling up the name of the.
I had no idea who Tucker was when we were introduced some years ago. No idea. And I don't like to look people up when I'm introduced because I don't want to, I like to engage with them directly
Yeah, people are like
first.
that guy's a far right. Like,
Yeah,
let me just talk.
exactly.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I've met people who are like this guy's a far lefty. And I talk to him. I'm like,
Yeah.
this is fucking funny as fuck. Like, what do I?
Yeah. Yeah.
Oh, he
Yeah.
hates Trump. I don't
Yeah.
care.
Yeah.
Trump's not
Well,
my wife.
the other thing is I want to engage with the individual. I want to know who you are personally. Let's talk that, and then we'll figure out the other
Yeah.
stuff, later. Yeah, but you were going to say something.
The
Go ahead.
I pulled it up the book I just started yesterday, the haves and I don't know why I do like a fucking you can't see it. The haves. Oh, there's my camera. I'm on now. The Haves and the Have Yachts by Evan
Oh,
Osnos,
yeah.
OSNOS.
Hmm.
I think it came out this year. Um, it's it's already I'm what the second chapter. You can already tell it's kind of it's kind of the we are the 99% Donald Trump bad and whatever and like that's
Uh,
fine. I don't care. And it's just about the crazy money of and I'm just into the book, so I have no fucking idea which way it's going. But
uh,
it's literally going into like the yachts and the mansions and the whatever. Um, but what's interesting now is it's talking about like the survival aspect of all these billionaires, which is nothing new. You have the bunker, you have they don't have a cabin. These people buy entire like fucking lakes in New Zealand and
yeah,
Montana, and like hey, I
yeah.
get it. It's kind of
And they have
interesting how they word it is well I'll get to that in a second. But the point is so you have these guys and they have everything, 400-foot yachts, five, and there's actually classifications, super yachts, mega yachts,
oh
giga
yeah, I used to
yachts.
be in the yacht business.
Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah, yeah, yeah,
yeah.
and all that
Yacht
and all
building.
yeah, and all that shit. And
Yeah,
you were?
yeah, yeah,
Oh fuck yeah, I'll
yeah,
make a note of that too. Hold on. But
yeah.
point is they're going in all of it, and the real thing where it seems like they're alive is when they're talking about survival. And they explain it in an interesting way. They go, it's not necessarily that they're paranoid. He goes, these are a lot of tech people who just look at things as statistics. And they go, okay, if there's only a 5% chance something might fail, well then yeah, don't obsess over it. But when that thing fails, what happens? Do you go down to half capacity or is it cataclysmic? The whole thing comes down. Well, there's 5% chance if it fails, and if it fails, the entire thing burns down. Okay, so we got to look at that little 5% as more important than that. And so when they look at things like what are the chances that, the society goes down, they have their percentage, but they're tech guys, and they go, well, then what would a percentage of my income be? And when you're a billionaire, to the outsider, it looks like, oh my God, these guys are preparing for the end. He just spent $8 million. But that guy might be like,
It's a rounding error.
that would be like if I,
Yeah.
whatever, fuck it. It's like I use Zoom and I use OBS. I record on both. OBS is free. Zoom's $15 a month. Well, if you were poor and making a penny a day, you'd be like, man, he really doesn't trust OBS. Versus I'm like, it's a fraction of what I'm making, and it makes sure that I don't lose an episode because when they're gone, they're gone. And so, but it's going into these guys, and I'm focusing in what I'm saying right now, I'm less of the survival thing. Yeah, the elite are always planning to do that, but you can tell just in the way they're talking, they're alive. And when they're talking about the yachts, but do you want the teak wood or do you want the marble? It's all very, sure we want that. It's for the hookers and the coke and the whatever. You can see like you can just hear through the book. I don't even know if this is the author's intent. You can hear like the liveliness when he's interviewing them about like survival. And that makes me think like I've always had this like notion that when the podcast finally makes enough money, I can put enough aside for a couple years and I'm not perpetually freaked out about whether or not the show's going to pay rent next month. I'm like, then I'll be more relaxed. And I've been thinking more and more, I'm like, I don't think I will be, and I don't think
No.
I want to be. And I'm listening
No.
to this now. These guys
Yeah.
with billions of dollars.
Yeah.
They have exfil teams everywhere they
Yeah.
go, former SF guys.
Yeah.
And you hear them, and it's like they're half the reason they're prepping. I don't think it's even fear. I think they're fucking thrilled to prep. And I go, oh, survival is like, I don't think you want it to go away. I don't
No.
think
And
you
here.
want that
Yeah.
fear
Yeah.
to go.
Yeah.
You
Well,
probably
that's
don't want to always
primal.
be worried about if you can pay for
Yeah.
groceries, sure. But I think to a degree, I'm like, the show might suck if I had $1 billion. Yeah, we'll
Yeah.
do it tomorrow, man. Whatever. Like, oh, and so what you're saying about like the chicks is like, no, you can tell when there's just like a live wire. You can
Yeah.
tell when someone's like, they're all
It's
there.
it's primal.
And it's
Problem they have
attractive.
is that 99.9% of what they're doing for survival is going to get him killed.
Well, that too. And like Clay says, who owns it or is it your head of security? It's
Yeah,
like,
it's
yeah, the
like,
very guys you're
come
hiring are probably the
on.
ones that are going to pop you. No, I get that.
Yeah. Well,
We're
they
not
might
even
not
going
even
into that
show
though.
up.
Not even
Yeah,
going
it's
into that
like,
though. Just the
yeah, yeah,
pursuit
yeah,
of it is
yeah,
what I
yeah, yeah.
mean.
No, it's primal, and
It's fucking alive.
it's a thing that they actually have to think about at a visceral level,
Yes.
right? So, but yeah, 99.9% of what they're doing and spending a lot of money on is going to get them killed. They won't.
Evan Osnos. Yeah, sorry. Just making
What's
sure.
that?
Evan Osnos. I don't know what it is that Greek Osnos,
Mm,
Osnos.
yeah.
But no, but you see that, and it's like that's the thrill. Yeah, I mean, it's like so when I take off and I don't drink anymore, I don't smoke anymore. So like my off days are kind of I do need them. I need a day off from the gym. I need a day off from like talking and blah blah blah. But man, like if I wake up and I don't have a show until noon, but I'm back from the gym at 8 a.m., I am a gas. I will fill the volume that I've been given. I will meander. I will.
Yeah.
When
Live.
I could,
Live.
yeah.
Yeah.
Well, no, I find it fucking very boring versus when I get back,
Oh.
fuck, I got EM, I got to go to the gym, I got to do this, I
Mm,
got to meditate, I got emails after, they got sticky notes,
yeah.
and it's like, I mean, it's just like car batteries hooked up to my carotid, and there is a point where it isn't good. It's when you are too burned out. But like, man, I don't.
Well,
I'm constantly pursuing this idea of like, I just want enough money that the show isn't I'm just a sort of Damocles of like, am I going to be working at a
uh,
gas station next month or interviewing EM? But the other side of me is like, do I want that like Novocaine of money? I, I
that's
don't
what
know. I don't
that's
know.
what I'm getting at. That's actually what
Sorry,
I'm
I know I've
getting
been
at, right?
rambling on.
Yeah,
Yeah.
no, 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 no. It's all that's what I'm getting at, right? Is that I've been I've had fairly comfortable life several times. I've had very uncomfortable life several times as well. I prefer something in the middle. Um, there is a certain amount of you have to pursue you know there's all these tools and new tricks and all this kind of stuff for reach and audience and monetization and all of that that's outside of just our normal thing we're doing, and we do have to put some time and energy and effort into that, and most of the people you contract with suck at it, so you're going to have to do it yourself. um, there is a certain amount of that because, yeah, you do need to pay the bills regularly and you do need to set some aside for when things downturn. And that's just the way it is. In every creative person's life ever, anybody whose livelihood is based off of an audience, there's ups and downs in that because we go through changes in life and our audience goes through changes in life. And you got to pad a little bit for those times to you remake yourself and come back out, etc. But down underneath, it's like I really don't like any of that. I don't care about it. I just want to do what I'm doing because I'm alive. When I write a piece, when something pops up, I don't ever sit down and think, oh, I got to say this. I got to. It's not that. It's like I'll get on, somebody will say something to me and I'm like, oh, and it'll just unlock this. Oh God, I'm going to write this. Boop. And I'll write a 5-page thing in probably 30 minutes, 40 minutes, right? And I have to go back through it and clean it up and, all of that. Or I'll see a tweet or something and it'll set me off and I'll write some, angry drunk like frickin', Bukowski like prose essay, and it'll come out in minutes, right? I feel when I'm sitting there just furiously typing away, I'm alive.
Yeah.
And then when you release it out there and you get, a handful, sometimes it's, tens of thousands, sometimes it's a small handful of people, but it's not the tens of thousands of reach, right, that it gets to. It's like the three or four people that in the comments will be like, fuck yeah, that's fucking
Uh,
exactly it, right?
that interview with Yancey,
Yeah.
that was like, I rarely ever look at comments because I don't care.
Mm,
That was sometimes I'll go back to a show that just felt good, and I'm like,
yeah.
I wonder if anyone, and I'll go in there, and every once in a while you see like a random comment, be like, "And it's not the biggest guest, it's
Yeah,
not
yeah,
Dr.
yeah,
Malone
yeah,
or
yeah,
General
yeah,
Flynn or
yeah,
whatever." And
yeah,
somebody commented like, "This is your best show." Or 2 weeks ago I had Bradley Birkenfeld, and it was just so much fun, and we like the energy was just flowing, and like the first comment was like, "This is you at the top of your game," and I'm like, that to me is so much cooler than this one got
yeah,
100,000
yeah.
views, and
Yeah, I
yeah.
could have $100 million in my account. It would never make me feel like that,
Yeah, and it's and I
right?
yeah, and it's like, so for like early on in the podcast, like the first thing I did was like when I was still working at a liquor store and living with my parents, the first thing I did was like buy an external hard drive with like liquor store
Mm,
money just so I had a duplicate of the podcast. And then, when I could afford it, I got like a fireproof safe and put it in there.
mm,
And that was the DEF CON one, that was building the fire.
yeah,
And but I'm realizing as I'm talking to you right now that like rush and thrill didn't go away once I had solidified it and then I had it backed up at friends' houses and now it's like decentralized. I don't even know where all the copies are.
mm,
Okay, and it's like, well, did the thrill of the rush, and it's like, well, no, now there's a new thrill. It's like, can I pay enough? Can I make enough to pay rent? Can I make enough to do this? Can I make enough to do that? And it's slowly reaching that point, and by the theory of like, well, am I going to be anesthetized? I should ask myself, like, right now, am I anesthetized? And I'm like, absolutely the fuck not. And why not? Well, now I want to make sure I have enough like emergency funds for a year or two. And you and I spoke one time. It's like, why do I like this apartment? The view's great and all that shit. I have a
Yeah.
second room. I have a guest room. My parents
Yeah.
stay with me. And
Yeah.
just the other day, I'm in Portland. The rest of my family's out in bumfuck. I had a family member in the hospital. He's all good. And
Mm.
and his wife came and stayed. My aunt came and stayed with me, and I was able to do that. And they're like, "Thank you so much." I'm like, "Dude, it was nothing off my back. It's not like I had
Yeah.
to go sleep on the couch." And like
Yeah.
that was the coolest of just like I was able to help out my family. I'm like, "Oh, that's okay." And this and now I'm start scheming, and I'm like, "Well, I want more of that. Like one day I want a wife and kids." And I'm like, "Oh, and so what if I had 100 million right now?" I'm like, "No, I don't think I would grow tired on the pot. I think what I do want to do is like years down the road, like I want if I can't start my own like video game studio, I want like professional modders because some mods are so fucking fun that they turn a game that you've been bored with into an entirely new experience. And that's a whole rabbit hole for another time. But my point is I think if you're addicted to that a live electric wire, you'll find ways to bring a new one into your life,
Mm.
regardless of where you are. And yeah, I would say
Right.
certain rushes I don't miss the rush of not knowing if I have enough to pay rent. I'm like, I don't
Yeah.
that
Yeah.
wasn't a
Yeah.
fun rush. That was
Yeah.
scary.
Yeah.
But right now, the rush, can I make enough that I get 100,000 subscribers? I'm like, oh, that's put that in my veins. Put that right in there. I don't know where I
So
was going with that, but yeah.
no, 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 no. I mean, we're just, you know, chit chatting, two friends talking here, right? The older one in a transition in his life where he's finally, after decades, pursuing the thing he always wanted to do. And it's a scary thing. You know, I'd be
Terrified.
pulling out my hair if I had any. Um, that's, there are two types of things that people connect with. One is the artificial rush of this, I look at all the little ones you were talking, the videos and stuff you were talking about earlier, and there's these faceless stuff. That's like the fentanyl of information. It's just a drug. It's just a
Of
high.
of
It's just
what videos?
so all the, so the gotcha videos that you were talking about
Oh
earlier
yeah.
and
Oh,
the YouTube
AOC is a
stuff and
big
that,
dummy. Yeah,
right?
no,
It's
that's
just like it's like fentanyl for drug addicts,
yeah.
right? Some of it's, yeah, some of it's blackball, blackball heroin, so it's, or black tar heroin, so it's good
I need to
quality
know why the
stuff,
libs are dummies.
right? But most of that's just drugs for the masses. It's, the, opiate for the masses.
Yeah.
But it does give people some, dopamine, norepinephrine, serotonin kind of high. And so they do it. And but there are some others, the ones that connect with the seekers, the seekers who aren't chasing the buck, although we probably need to do a better job of that here and there, right? Um, or partner with somebody who's good at it. And that's the other piece, right? Is often you got to partner with somebody who focuses on that. I mean, if you look at every very successful entity in the history of the world, there's at least two partners, even if one's very senior, or three. And often it's the three that's the big, big success,
Yeah, yeah. Apple,
right?
Jobs, Wozniak,
All of
Google,
them. Yeah.
Brin.
Microsoft, all of it.
Which one's
All of
Google's?
it.
Sergey.
Ford Motor Company, Carnegie Steel, American Steel, was it American? All of these, there's at least two and usually three in the very successful
Who's the other one of,
enterprises.
sorry, who's the other founder of Google? Sergey Brin and Larry
Larry
Page?
Page,
Okay.
Page and Brin. And there's
Yeah.
another guy who was a marketing business guy that the fund. Same thing with I can't, Cisco telecom, because I used to be in telecom. That was my background. But Cisco is the same thing. Two guys.
Facebook, yeah.
Facebook, like people talk about Jobs, Steve and Steve, Woes and Jobs, but there was a third guy who the investment fund, the first investor who came in said, you need this business guy on the team. Nobody remembers his name,
I
but
just read a book on Steve Jobs and I don't remember the name.
Yeah, so I can't remember the guy's name. I met him once years ago in Silicon Valley. Um, Gosh, I can't remember his name. I can see his face. But anyways, he was, there was three. But point being is that for any really successful enterprise venture, et cetera, it's almost never one person. It's usually two or three. And the really lingering, enduring successes have three people, and they focus on different things, right? So back to the, conversation is being had is that sometimes the creator is not the one, the innovator creator is not the one to be focused on all the monetization stuff. They need to partner with somebody that's what they think of. And unfortunately, it's just been my experience over the last 10, 15 years that trying to outsource it to people that offer these services, most of the times they just suck
No,
at it.
it's got to be a partner or something.
Yeah.
Can't be.
Yeah.
I'm realizing that, and I'm slowly having the like forced humility
Mm,
of like I'm good at interviews. I'm good at getting people on the show,
yeah.
networking. Right now,
Carrying a
yeah,
conversation.
right now I
Yeah,
make the
yeah,
thumbnail, but that's just it's just a task I do.
yeah.
I'm like, yeah, I don't know sales and I don't know marketing. I'm like, I know I can fucking crank these out. I can do
Yeah,
them
yeah,
consistently, reliably, and they're gonna keep coming, and I don't burn gas, and I get all that good stuff. I'm like, yeah, I don't know. I'm sure I could go learn. I don't think I'm an idiot. I think I could go learn marketing. I think I could go learn whatever, calculus. But the thing that I think makes me good at this is like, oh, I have a wild love for this though. Even though I should care about marketing, if I mean, I don't give a shit. Like I don't, and I'm realizing that like, and there's some humility in there to go like, well, you're not the maestro at marketing. Maybe you can host a really good conversation. I don't know anything about SEO and CPM and keywords and ad
and
plugs. I'm like,
funnels and monetize.
none of recurring and
Yeah,
duration. I'm
exactly.
like, yeah,
Yeah,
I don't.
yeah.
And I think for me, I've always been like, if it's paying the bills, then that's good enough. But at a certain point, that is stupid. If you're just leaving money on the table,
Correct.
doesn't mean whore out. Doesn't mean start
Correct.
hoarding yourself out. No, 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 no.
Yeah.
But if you have an existing body that's not being monetized, well, now you're just being stupid. And I'm
So
having that kind of humble, like, okay,
yeah. So
noted.
it's time maybe for a partner. That's the careful thing. So give me a second. This
Yeah.
gets back to what I was talking about, okay? About the opiates, the opiate for the masses, right? Most of the stuff that's out there. I had this coming to making a fundamental transition to, you know, stopping pursuing the big money and the investment funds and all the other stuff that I've done for years. And as an analyst, I've never been a partner in a firm or anything like that because I never really wanted it. But making this transition in my life now to, okay, it's time to be a writer and actually, no joke, be a writer and do all the writer things and make a living off of it because this is the thing that I can do into my 80s or 90s. Right. I can work to the day probably close to I die as a writer because it just flows out of me all day. Some days I write 4 or 5 pieces because it's just like it's that day. Right. So people need us. Okay. So people go to information, the information streams, the info space for one of two reasons. One, they're going there to get high,
Mm-hmm.
or they're going there to feel alive.
Mm-hmm.
And folks like us do things that are for the feel alive people. And we have to, this is harder to monetize. This is harder to make a living off of. So, one, because we're not whoring out and we're not doing the gotchas and we're not doing but the world needs this too. They need the alternative to the high. They need the alternative to the digital fentanyl, which we got to use that term from now on,
Yeah.
right? So and I'm getting to this because part of the transition to, okay, it's time for me to do this seriously and take it seriously and really focus and emphasize on this instead of the consulting and the other stuff. although I'll probably still do some of that because I like to help people, right? But there have been several people over the last couple of months that have told me, you need to do more with this. You need to get this out broader. People are hungry for this because they want to feel alive. And how do you feel alive? People who, the way in which you feel alive is you cut through the noise to life.
Yeah, just being whenever I get like angry that the show's not getting more views and shit. But then I look at whenever I can get like a glimpse into demographics, like Spotify or whatever,
Mm, mm,
I will always see that the majority of my viewership is like 55 and up.
mm.
And I'm like, people are watching it.
Yeah,
Then I think about some of the people that I'm like, well, why wouldn't this be more popular? And I can just think of like, you know, you or who, let's say Tom Luongo or Column or Dr.
yeah,
Malone. And I'm like, do any of those people seem like people who click on the shit on Rumble? It's like AOC is a dummy. Like, no, what are you, stupid?
yeah,
And I go, oh, and then why do they watch yours? Because they've gone through all the the all that shit, and they're like, I just kind of want to hear a conversation now. And I'm like, oh, there is a market for it. It's just long, and like any good thing, it can't happen overnight. And that's also what I'm realizing is when things blow up, whether overnight, they're either astroturfed or an industry plant, or it's a quick lighting of a fuel. And sure, it burns bright, but then it's gone, man. And I'm like,
yeah,
well, I want
yeah,
this for the long
yeah.
term. It's like it's probably a blessing that it doesn't just skyrocket. And that's a tough pill to swallow when all you want it to do is skyrocket. But
I think your generation, so you are generating content for your generation that is a generation and two older. And your generation is still aging into those types of thoughts and concepts and complexities of living. And so it may be that you're creating a corpus of work, a deep body of work that your generation, if it's organized and made available properly, cataloged and all that kind of stuff, will be of immense value to your generation and the one after you in their time, which
mm,
is coming now, right? And for your generation, it's starting to come. You're cataloging two generation the thinking and work in honesty, right? In these conversations and in a format that's digestible, you know, for for your and future generations.
it also always comes back in my like flow chart.
Mm.
Actually, yeah, I'm telling you where to find your book. I got pissed and I didn't fill up my thermos beforehand. I
Yeah,
should.
yeah, yeah, yeah. Reload, unload, and reload. Yeah, so Amazon, The Eternal War, The Art of Being Man, or the Eternal War's underlying what's going on underneath everything, cutting through all the labels. The Art of Being a Man is 113 meditations on manhood. And the new one is a book of drunken prose and poetry about the world and the hard topics that we're all bouncing about. And that one's called Men's Scars, Women's Wars, and the Whole Rotten Mess. And it is also available on Amazon. And then I have two more coming out here relatively soon. One's called a collection of essays called The Financialist Kill Chain. That should be out in the next couple of weeks on Amazon. And the third one, well, the final one, excuse me, will be a Modern Knight's Guidebook, which is also related to manhood and the necessity and the manner in which we need to take ourselves, young men and men of any age, need to take themselves through a hard, ruthless, brutal manhood ritual. And what does that look like? And that one will be out here sometime in the next month. And then you can find things. I rant somewhat on Twitter and Substack as well. emburlingame.substack.com and emburlingame at Twitter. And we'll be putting up a website here, emburlingame.com here some point in the next week or so.
Really need to remember to fill that beforehand. Um, but I don't know. I always go back into the flow chart of, and this is for me, but it's kind of what we're getting at. And I don't know. But it's like, am I enjoying this? Because like the entire reason I decided not to go to med school was I wasn't enjoying it. I appreciated
You
it.
weren't alive.
Well, I appreciated it. I thought it was a noble endeavor, still do. Job security, respect, blah, blah, blah. But I wasn't enjoying it. And so everything I've taken along, every path I've taken along the road since then has always had these qualifiers of like, well, okay, I could make this thing work if I just covered, Trump owning the libs. And it's like, well, why wouldn't you? If you're like that desperate to make money to pay rent. I'm like, yeah, but I don't enjoy it. You could say, well, it's not about enjoying it, it's about paying rent. And I'm like, but if I was just gonna do that, then I always go back to, well, I could go get a job. And if you want to, and if I was gonna go get a job and do something I don't want to do and make money, I would try to do the most good with it, which would be being a doctor and contributing to society. So if I'm not gonna enjoy what I'm gonna do, I'm at least gonna make it the world somewhat better on a fraction. But if I'm gonna do what I want to do, all along the way, you have to maintain that center thing of because if it ever gets to a point where it's like, I don't really like the podcast anymore because I just do like a political beat, but it's enough, it pays rent. It's like, but you're doing something you don't want to do for money. Go back and go do the thing that you can make a lot more money on and do good in the world. So for me, it always comes back to that of like, yeah, but I just don't enjoy this. I and I always have to remember it's like, well, this is why you started. Like, don't forget why you started and don't lower your thresholds and go, well, it's enough to pay rent. It's like, no, 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 no. If you're gonna do something you don't want to do, go back and go do that. I have to continually like this. And I also look at it as like, I don't know, one thing I always think of is that it's like, let's say this like life is a simulation or it's multiple sim or whatever. Let's say none of this is real. You're not real. My parents aren't real. Blah blah blah. It's like, all right, maybe. Well, what would I want in hindsight if I wake up from it and I go, oh, it was just a dream, it was just a game? Would I care more about views? Well, no, because none of it's real. What if it was subjectively really fun? Yeah, I don't care if it was a dream. It's fucking fun. Sometimes like I'll play video games and I'm doing a stream and I'm like I try to make it entertaining, but then I realize I'm doing it for the audience, not for me. Like last week, I just decided not to stream, which I hadn't done forever. I just played video games all day by myself on Saturday. And I was like, don't do what you think you should do. I'm like, what do I want to do? And I was just like fucking around in this game and like legitimately laughing and was like, that was awesome. That was just me and I enjoyed that. I don't care that it wasn't streaming. And so on like the practical thing, I go, am I enjoying it? Because if not, go do something else and make more money. And the other thing is like, if I do wake up from this, and none of it was real. Make sure on the off chance that maybe it is all real, I go, well, that's the whole mental health thing and Clay and them and the doctors and try to do the right in the world and leave it better because you'd feel really dumb if you woke up and then that wasn't a simulation, man. Everyone there was real conscious. I'd be like, fuck, I didn't help people out. And then the other part is like, if it does turn out to all be bullshit, when I'm laughing and playing a game, I don't care that it's all NPCs. I'm like, I don't give it. It's so much fun. And I don't know. I try to just thread those needles, it's kind of difficult. It's like a multiple scopes lining up. But I do try to do that. And it's, again, man, it's a fucking reward and a half to pull it off. So I
So,
the thrill and all that shit.
so the purpose of life is not money. The purpose of life is life. Now we have to convert, as you said earlier, the alchemy. There's a certain amount of our living, our life that we do need to convert to gold so that, or the shekels, as you say in your introductions. So there is a certain amount of our living our lives that we do need to convert. For those few that can find a way to do that without, taking a portion of their day every day and being a drone, being dead, not being alive, just doing a job. For the few that can find a way to do that, that's like the most glorious thing that there is. I've chased money, I've had money, I came from money, we lost the money, family battles, internal struggles. Um, the only times I've felt alive were when I wasn't chasing money, when I wasn't, when I was just living, I was just engaged. It's not about, there was a thing when I was younger, when we're young, we're chasing emotions and all of that. And so there was a certain transition of emotionality. This gets back to the opiate fentanyl, the informational fentanyl that people are mainlining most of the time. I realized when I was, in my 20s, mid 20s, I think, I was very sick for a while. I had pancreatitis I didn't drink alcohol. I was very healthy. I was athletic. They didn't figure it out till decades later. And it's because I have a blood condition that nobody found out about till I was in my 50s. It's ancestral thing, too much iron. Um, but the point is that when I was very sick in the hospital and dying basically from pancreatitis, very, very acute pancreatitis, um, for a year and a half, I came to realize that I had been chasing emotions and emotional highs, and that wasn't really living. That was it was drug chasing, or drug seeking behavior. I wasn't doing drugs, but you know what I mean. Norepinephrine, dopamine,
Mm,
serotonin, those are drugs, right? So in my mid 20s, I realized that I wanted to live life. I wasn't going for feeling life. I wanted to live life, that there was a distinction there, and I needed to stop chasing the highs and, the drug highs. And which is a funny thing because I was on so much Demerol at the time every day with the little pump, you know, because I was in so much pain. Um, so much pain. I wouldn't wish pancreatitis on my worst enemies, to be quite frank. It's unreal painful. Um, But I set out, and that's when I moved up to Sun Valley, Idaho, and tried to be a writer. And because why? Because when I was writing, what was I doing? I was thinking through these complex spaces and trying to figure out what was going on so I could bring it down and write it out on a page so that other people could grasp it. And I felt alive. Why? Because I was engaged with the world around me and the world inside, the informational space, the idea space, the concept space, which is what you do with your shows. That's the space you're moving in. And it makes you feel alive. It's what our brains, this complex, massive structure, and not just this brain, we got the enteric one as well, we're designed for to live, to be alive, to engage in the world around us, to analyze and process and reduce down this unreal beyond complexity to something that we could actually use and process and when or benefit from, right? Share with others. And when all of that wiring and complexity that goes back millions of years is working towards life and towards understanding and modeling in such a way that we can share it with others and we can benefit from it, there is nothing I've ever experienced that makes even getting shot at and rocketed and everything and shooting back and all that other stuff ever comes as close to the feeling of being alive when you are being an honest broker in the information space that you're trying to understand. It's an unreal feeling of being alive. And sometimes, yeah, you even get high out of it when something clicks, right? Or somebody says something or or somebody says something, then that clicks a response, and you're like, oh, and then you distill it down and respond back. It's like those little aha moments are better than any drug I've ever tried
Hmm.
or ever heard about, right? And I can't, I don't have those if I'm chasing the informational fentanyl. I don't have those if I'm fixated and oriented on earning a buck. Now, there are some people that are wired. I tried this in the financial space, right? And sometimes I would get that kind of because not the nugs in finance, but at the higher levels where I worked in private equity, venture capital, investment banking, et cetera, that's a lot of complexity. That's a lot of complex, unreal complex space that you're trying to work out. And most of what I was an analyst in all of it. And particularly what I worked on is trying to find fraud in due diligence, doing due diligence for transactions or business plans, et cetera. I was trying to figure out where was there a deception or a fraud or um, like Rumsfeld said, known knowns, known unknowns, and the unknown unknowns. That's what I was trying to do. And there was some excitement in there. And I get why some of these people, the guys that are really, really, really good at money aren't chasing the money.
No.
They're doing complex deals that have unreal amount of complexity and a lot of social stuff and informational space and all this. And they're really good at money just comes, right? The money just because of the space they're working in and moving in, it just happens. But the guys that are really, really good at making money at every level, even business guys, lower level business guys, et cetera, they do feel alive there. It's the ones that are chasing dollars, chasing money, chasing being rich. Those are the ones that are just they're not alive. They're transactional based. They're not alive. And the thing for me is while I love the finance stuff and I still always pay attention to it, and I'm still, that's what got Tom and I introduced and other people. I get it. But for me, the seven elements of power, diplomacy, information, military, martial, economics, finance, intelligence, and law enforcement should be legal. Well, two of those are the seven elements of power, which is what fascinates me is the whole thing. That's the thing that makes me feel alive is thinking through those every day. Economics and finance are two of the seven, right? So in that way, I'm very much paying attention to these things and I enjoy them. But when I was doing it to, earn a living at it and, you know, doing it as an analyst, I liked the analyst part. That's why I never try to be a partner or do any of this other stuff. Uh, it just doing deals to do deals is like so. Point being is that to kind of bring it back is that there is a fundamental difference between informational, going for the informational fentanyl high, dopamine, norepinephrine, and serotonin fuckery, and being alive by working in and moving in the informational space and not trying to get you. I'm trying to get it. I'm trying to understand the world and share that with people. I'm not trying to be, fed drugs by the world, informational drugs. I want to feel the world. I want to move through the world, not emotionally, again, back to when I was in my 20s, but I want to move through the world. I want to be a part of this world. There's that line in The Lord of the Rings, the Two Towers, when I think it's Mary asks Treebeard the Ent, but you're a part of this world, aren't you? That's what I'm going for. I want to be a part of this world, but
Yeah.
we do got to make a living. And I've lived in a hut with no floor when I was a kid for a while, no water, no electricity, none of it. 6, 12 feet of snow on the ground, 30 below some for a couple of weeks at a time sometimes. No food every once in a while for a couple of days. I mean, I've eaten dry dog food out of a bag because that's all we had in the house. Um, Strange. We always had dog food, but not human food sometimes. Violent, insane mother who was going through her own stuff. So, get it. Violent young brother, probably psychopath. Um, I was alive. I don't need a whole lot to be alive, right? We keep getting sold all of this information, right? You need this and this and this and this and this. You got to buy this. You got to keep up with this. You got to da, 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 da. It's all drugs. It's not being alive.
Yeah, I will say there's nothing quite like in a podcast when I don't know, when the locks start to come off.
Mm,
There, and there's like two different highs. There's the one which is most of them, like with this show, even this exact episode is you go in with just nothing.
yeah.
And you start looking around and you're trying to find just a way that it's going to start going and it starts to come together and starts to crystallize and then the other is normally when it's like a guest that's like, I don't know, for lack of a better word, like a bit out of my league. Like the first time I had on like Mike Lindell or General Flynn or Dr. Malone or Roseanne Barr or and to slowly, I don't know, prove yourself and to start moving away from just questions about blah 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 blah
Yeah.
and start to be you
To live.
and start to be who you and then to see that
Yeah.
work on them when they crack
Yeah.
a smile and it's just like the teeth on the wheel start catching and it's not that they produce money because to date they still haven't but just when they start to work and then it's like the engine starts going faster like you leave that feeling like you just untied a shoe that's been like had some fucked up knot for 10 years and then you get it and like it's loose and your foot can breathe. It's like the just the weirdest puzzle piece type thing going together and yeah, it's but like meditation, it's like if I focus on meditation, the meditation sucks. And I've been doing
Sucks.
it for 20
Yeah.
years and I
Yeah.
still haven't figured it out. But instead I just focus on the I, the self experience, not putting words on it, not saying let's focus on not anything, just
Yeah.
like what
Yeah.
Ram Dass said, meditation is a finger pointing at the moon. Don't get caught up in the point
It's
finger
not the
pointing at the
finger and
moon
it's
is the
not the
method.
moon. Yeah.
It's
Yeah.
it's the you can't call it. As soon as you call it
Yeah.
something, it's not that's no longer
Yeah.
it.
Yeah.
If you start looking at a podcast, be like, okay, how are we gonna make this one work? How are we gonna find a thread? It sucks. If instead you just start in the moment, just pitching it back and forth, the energy back and forth, then all of a sudden, when you're not looking for it, the very thing you weren't looking for starts to happen. And then and this one's like much harder to quantify. But I don't know, putting pieces into place for long term. I don't even know how to put this into words, and I'll use it the best way I possibly can. Grand Theft Auto 5, there's a series of heists in the game where you make money, you rob banks, and you do whatever. And it's as you get more and more money, you can buy cool cars and buy cool guns and shit. And you can always go just, rob a store or rob a random person.
Yeah.
But there's three big heists in the game. It's a jewelry store, it's a bank out in the desert, and then it's the Union Depository. And each one is progressively more, and the last one is the big one. And so you have a whole team, you get your cut, and you get like 30 million or something, and then like the game's over, and it's you can buy everything and blah blah blah. But there's also a series of missions, side missions in there, where you start assassinating people to juke stocks. It's like cigarettes, healthcare, and something else. And each one you can get like whatever, 1,000% return. And then somebody after like the game had been out for 2 years had put together like you don't have to do those side missions to complete the game. So you can do the primary ones first, get 40 million, and then go do the side missions. And that's not how the game was designed. The game was designed that early on that was a way to get some money. But people found out you could then take the 40 million and put it into three successive series of stock manipulations. And then without any cheats, without anything, it became like a known strat that you could make around, I think it was 2.1 billion. And it's like when you did that, you no longer you could buy every car. And there was no cheating.
Yeah.
And it's that's so much harder to put into words with the podcast, but just trying to line things up for things years down the road. Like doing all those episodes on COVID back in 2020, 2021. My legitimate goal was it's the right thing to do, but also this is going to get me like street cred for being honest and not bending the knee like 5 years down the road. And at the time, I was like, that kind of sounds ridiculous. I'm like, no, but I think it's gonna work. Or even just, like long-term networking and Rolodexing. And that's so much harder to like put into words, but that's probably the coolest thing is just, and it's hard to talk about because a lot of the things are like private and like my goals and plans for the show I keep private, but I don't know, trying to line up those slingshots over years is probably the coolest thing. And I don't think I'm doing a good job of putting into words, but
Well, you can't.
that is my favorite thing thus far is lining up networking like 18 months out with the goal of getting X guest. And then you get X guest. You're like, well, I'm going to talk to this person. This person knows their secretary, and this secretary knows their son, and and then as it clicks, man, it's even if that episode gets 10 views, I don't know. It's like an intellectual like ego pat. You're like, I fucking figured that shit out. So I don't really know where I was going with that, but
Well, it's part of the journey. So give me 1 second. Something just came to mind that's important to state. Money is not status. It's not. Status is relationships. Who do you know in the world and what do they do and who are they connected to and what kind of access does that give you? That's real status. That's always been the way status is. And through your show and the efforts that you do, exactly the process that you just talked about, the effort and work and time and energy you put in, you I'll give you an example, okay? You have immensely high status is what I'm getting to, right? Doesn't matter about money. You know way more high status people than 99.9% of the millionaires out there. And they'll talk with you. This
hey,
everybody,
kitty,
here's Atal. Um, hey buddy,
what are you
come here,
doing?
you. That's Atal, one of our adoptees. Um, I'll give you an example. I was working in, this is decades ago. I was working in fintech, um, Next Card. And I was at the time, I was early in the company. I was a facilities guy. I was, building out data centers and facilities and leases and different countries and all that stuff, working with a gentleman named Sean Dean, a mentor. He was the boss. I was helping him and backing him. And I remember being called in one Saturday morning for vice president, senior vice president, I won't mention the name, to fix their desk. Imperiously instructed to come in on a Saturday and fix their desk. We got people for that. It was a power play, right? It
Mm.
was and I was junior in the company and it was just a power play. And I was feeling kind of down about myself that I was in a position, I was my very early 30s, late 20s, early 30s. And I was feeling pretty bad about myself, that I was this low in life that this person could, you know, bully, business bully me into coming into the office on a Saturday to do something that could have waited till Monday morning and
Yeah.
purse facility, the property guy could have done that for him. But I did it. And then I was under their desk fixing whatever the hell it was. I don't remember it to this day. And I started to smile. This person is worth several $100 million at this point because we've taken the company public. Um, but I was smiling because I had just left. In order to come in at that time, I had just left a party that I'd been at since the day before with movie stars, wealthy people, like very well, very high status people who were all my friends.
Hmm.
And I'm under the desk fixing the desk, and I realize I got way more status than this person does. This person has made all of this money, is
And
playing all these games
they
to
still have to get off
maybe,
this way.
well, it absolutely. And they've done all of that to maybe get invited to one of the parties that I go to probably 2 or 3 times a week. And they'll probably never get the invitation.
And they know the invites are from they
Correct.
know the invites are from their money. They
Correct.
know that
Correct. Well, and they don't even get to go to, these are the socials, right? These aren't you know,
it's
the
authors
high
who are
status.
afraid to use a pseudonym because they deep down
Correct.
they know that their first big success was maybe a fluke.
Yeah,
And then
well,
some get the balls too. I think J.K. Rowling did it and it actually sold. And it's like,
yeah,
okay, you're
yeah,
proved now you're okay, you proved your worth.
yeah, yeah. So it was a major realization that helped change the path of my life. And it's also why I didn't. I mean, there's been a couple of times I went after the money and built things and was going down certain pathways. Every time I go down that pathway, though, something comes along and derails me at some point because it's not what I'm supposed to be doing. But the point is that I was able to realize, again, just like when I was very sick with pancreatitis, I was able to realize don't chase the high, chase living, right? And then again, some years later, not too many years later, 4 or 5 years later, I was able to realize, oh, status isn't money. It isn't a position in a company. It isn't some title. And so, no, no, no. Status is your friends and who they are and who they are in the world and the fact that they want to hang out with you. And this person with all this artificial status who's chasing the high in their own way, never going to get invited to that party. And then and to your point, any party with these people they are invited to is because of their money, is because of their artificial status, is because of, you know, because for some reason there was some crossing of lives there where this financial company and this person's money was necessary for some other thing. But the private party at this people's house, which is where I was in the East Bay, they'd never get invited to that party. Right. And it wasn't even really a party. It was just friends get together. Right. And that's the real status. And so, Tommy, already you're one of the highest status people of your generation.
There's a there is something cool about getting on crazy guests,
Yeah.
like crazy big guests, and then having them come back a second time
Yeah.
and knowing it's not because of my reach.
Yeah.
My reach is it's cool, it's growing, it's better than it
Yeah.
was
Yeah.
last year, but it's not where I want it. And in terms of podcast, it is like bottom 1%. It meant if you had 10 million subscribers and people are just showing up and smiling and you might not, maybe you just don't give a shit and you're like, it's not make money. But if it's something you really truly loved and this was your art and you believed in it, man, there would be a part of me. Some people have pointed out, like, like some like shitty kind of bootlicking comedians that get on Rogan. People will clip it and be like, these guys are laughing like a court jester, afraid the king's gonna kill them. Oh, dude, that was a great one, Joe. That was a great one.
Uh,
They want to stay in that circle. And
yeah.
I'm sure he can see through it too, but like
Yeah.
Now he doesn't. He was rich before he started that. He had the
Yeah,
whatever, and he
yeah,
had wife and kids, and he seems like someone that's like he did this. He really does have other things going on, personal family things that he
yeah,
likes. Which hey, respect. There is something cool. I mean, and would I rather have that problem? Probably because it would mean that I'd had savings and money put away. But I do know that when I get someone on this show, they're not they're not like kissing the ring and hey, I'll come on anything for Tommy's podcast. It's the exact opposite. They're like, no, I just like it. You're going
yeah,
to that because it's the
yeah.
why are you going to that shitty bar, man? It's just the most fun one. I don't give
Because it's
a fuck.
real.
And like that, I think is maybe like the biggest. And again, and so on the flip side, compliments don't pay for groceries, but
Yeah,
still,
yeah, yeah.
that's like the biggest compliment is when I have people come and like kick it on the show, and I'm like, I mean, I always tell people go follow their Twitter, go buy their books. I'm sure the conversion rate is less than a hundredth of a percent, but that no one's coming. Dr. Malone's not coming on my show to push his newest book. I'll read it and we'll talk about it. But like no one's coming on here to get a viewer. Roseanne Barr doesn't respond to my text and she does, but she doesn't do that because she wants that TPC bump. She's fucking Roseanne Barr.
Yeah.
And
Well,
that, yeah,
these
that's like
people
the
can
coolest
be
compliment.
real,
Yeah.
and that's the other thing. You bring on guests who can be real because they're already there. They already have
They got
status.
nothing to prove, and I have nothing to give them.
That's right. So I'm gonna have to go here pretty
Yeah, no,
soon,
yeah,
but
yeah, yeah.
I want to leave you with another little one of these. I'm at that age now where I tell stories, um, metaphorical stories, but they're actual stories that happened to me. I'll give you another one. I had a very we've kind of had a falling out over time, but I used to have a very, very close, very successful friend of mine from a royal family. And he used to go to dive bars in the communities, the different communities. He'd go to dive bars every once in a while. And people knew who he was and people, some people get upset, but I asked him one time, why do you go to the dive bar? And I'd go with him and, et cetera. He's like, these people are real. They're living a real life. That fancy bar that's down the street, nobody there's real. They're all fake. It's all fucking fake and gay. He didn't say the gay part, but it's all fucking fake. He also didn't swear, but it's like it's all fake and gay. He goes, if I want to feel alive, I want to really connect with people. I'll go to the dive bar.
Yeah,
Those people are real. They're
yeah,
living.
yeah.
And he goes, and sometimes if I want to know the truth of something, and I can't go talk to somebody in my network because it's going to cause a threat or a danger or whatever. And I don't want to go to the fake and gay bar and talk to people there because they're all fake and gay. He's like, I'll go to a dive bar and I'll talk to some drunk and they'll give me the best damn advice I've ever fucking heard.
They don't fuck. Yeah,
It's like I'd pay $50,000 to Forrester for some, answer to some simple question. He's like, I'd go to a dive bar, just talk to some fucking drunk carpenter
and
or
it's more
roofer,
and
and
it's
I'll
more
get the
real.
answer in the simplest fucking words in like 3 minutes, and all it cost me was cost of a Pabst Blue Ribbon.
Yeah, yeah. No, there is something. And honestly, man, like the best shows, the most subjectively enjoyable shows I've ever done. There's like there's not even a pattern.
Yeah,
It's not that sometimes it's because they wrote a book I like. Most times it's not. Like Yancey and we had so much fucking fun the other day. And
yeah.
I've had some of those with Clay. And there's no like, oh, what's Tommy giving me? And it's not vice versa. It's not like, oh, they're gonna deposit 50,000 in my account for having them on the show. There's nothing. And those are so fucking fun and they're so real that like yeah, I think like that's kind of the thrill of the ride is
It's your status. It's your
yeah.
status in the world. The status that you have is that you can have conversations with pretty much anybody at any level in any industry. And there is virtually nobody in the world who can say that, who has vast amounts of, even billionaires.
Yeah.
You can say it because it's real and you've got 1,800 some odd shows to show it. That's real status.
Yeah. And that's it's always kind
You
of
couldn't buy that.
no, and like I've been on shows where people have like whole production teams and
Yeah,
everything and
yeah. And good
like
on them. Yeah,
and yeah,
yeah,
whatever. But like I can tell they're like, okay, how do we get this guest and what's our intro and can you, and I'm like, just talk to him. What do you mean? Just talk to him. Like, how
yeah,
do we do this? How do we do it?
yeah,
I'm like, send him an email. They're what they
yeah,
want to know about the show and I realized like, oh, that's not what I thought was like a normal thing is not normal at all. When it's like the guest comes in, it's just like, yeah, man, it's just me. What's up? And they're like, how do we? I mean, you the pre-show. Yeah, man, I know we run an hour plus or minus 15. It'll be up tomorrow, and I don't know, just have a good time. And they're like, all right, and
yeah,
we just fucking talk for an hour. And
yeah.
I had on and what we do, yeah, wrap it up. But yeah, I had on yesterday Toby Harnden, author of First Casualty, about the first CIA team in Afghanistan after 9/11.
Mm,
And
mm.
we talked about the book for maybe 4 minutes, hour and a half the rest of the time.
uh,
Fucking going back and
shooting
forth
the
about
shit.
how cool
Uh,
it is to like history and read and like how fake
yeah,
and gay like political
yeah,
thumbnails are and at the end I was like, oh yeah, get the book or whatever. But like he and I were just like having a
yeah.
fucking blast and it's like, yeah, you couldn't do that if you're like a nightly host. Like, welcome to the show. Talk about your book. And it's just
Well,
like,
you couldn't do it either if you had a formula you had to follow so you can make some bucks.
and if you had a fiduciary responsibilty in the production team,
No,
like,
there's
steer
that
clear of
too.
this, steer clear of this.
Fiduciary
And you
response. Oh,
oh fuck
so
off.
you do understand some of this money stuff.
Yeah, because I'm so averse to it, I think. And it's, yeah, when people are, like, yeah, God, what topics? I'm like, nothing. Let's just fucking,
Yeah.
right. Let's just, yeah. And then when I do go on shows that are like that, I mean, I never say it out of politeness, but when I'm on there, I'm like, this sucks. Like, you're not a bad person,
Uh,
but dude, what the fuck is that? Like,
well,
geez,
it's like when you go to a party and you're there for about 3 minutes and you're like, yeah, this
I
is
gotta
no
go.
fun. I got to figure out how the hell to get out. I got to be nice to the host and I got to figure that
Yeah,
out. And then I got to sneak out the door.
I gotta go, man.
Yeah.
I,
I got a thing like
I have
I got
a,
a hair
yeah.
appointment or something.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
no, it's yeah. So that's the yeah, it's yeah,
All
fuck
right,
it.
brother.
Yeah, we got to wrap it up. Everybody in
Yeah.
the description, go follow him on Twitter. The books are in the description, and we will schedule one for the next book and all that. Good in your YouTube and all that. Fucking, it's all up there. Go get it.
Yada yada.
Yeah,
All
yeah,
right,
yeah.
man.
All right,
Appreciate
brother.
it, Tommy.
Take it
Yep.
easy.